I'm out here in Las Vegas, and we just wrapped the Canelo Munguia weigh-in, and it is hot. We have Mexican versus Mexican. Fans were split. We'll talk about it.
Canelo Munguia. Will Canelo continue his meteoric rise and stay at the top, or will Munguia upset the apple cart?
We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more here on Deep Waters, which starts now on ProBox TV. Welcome, everyone, to Deep Waters here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel, where we take a deeper dive into boxing's top stories. And there is nothing higher on the list that's getting more attention in boxing than the fight coming up, the undisputed super middleweight championship fight between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Jaime Munguia. Today was the weigh-in, and we have the numbers, and we're going to get the reaction. And later on in the program, we're going to talk to a fighter who has fought both Munguia and Canelo Alvarez. You got to save that for later. But we got the champs here, Paulie Malignaggi and Chris Algieri in Las Vegas. We see that Canelo weighed in at 166.8 and Munguia 167.4. Chris, what was your reaction to the weights and the environment at the weigh-in?
You know, it was a little strange to me that Canelo came in so light, but the energy levels that he's shown all week and he's been exhibiting, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me think that he overtrained or he left it in the gym. He's been in a very good mood the last couple of days. He was dancing on the stage at the weigh-in by the scales. He seemed very, very confident in the media room. Has been even playful at times with some of the media. So I don't think the weight's really an issue. I will say this, though. Munguia is a much bigger man. That was the first time I got to see them actually face-to-face. You know, I saw them both in the media room, walk by both guys. Munguia certainly the bigger guy, but when I saw them next to each other on the scale, I really saw the size difference. You know, Canelo's just not that big of a guy, especially not for 168. And Munguia, man, he is all of a 6 foot. He looks like a light heavyweight. He, too, looked very healthy walking around all week in media. Didn't look like he really struggled to make the weight. Looked healthy, looked full. Looks like a true 68-pounder, if not a light heavyweight, to tell you the truth. So just the eye test, you could definitely see the size difference.
Yeah, Paulie, what did you make of the weigh-in and the environment there in Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, it's anytime you have a big Canelo fight here, you know, the weigh-in is sort of the pinnacle of the fight week. Now it's all that's left is to watch the fight. I think everybody really gets their last look at these fighters, and it's always exciting. It's always something that, you know, builds up the anticipation. You know, I don't really know. I mean, I think Chris has the more inside bird's eye view being there at the weigh-in. It's going to be interesting to see how much Munguia maybe rehydrates. Canelo coming in light surprised me a little bit, but I'll say this. I think Canelo has a bit more of a chip on his shoulder, a bit more ego for this fight. Not necessarily because it's Munguia, but because it's Oscar's fighter. And I think that, you know, there's a bit more personal ramifications for him in this fight. And he really doesn't want to lose, not because it's Munguia, but because it's Oscar's fighter.
It reminds me a little bit there. He's not really fighting. He is fighting Munguia, but he might be picturing Oscar's face on Munguia's shoulders
even if it's not, it's just he doesn't want to give the satisfaction that Oscar had a guy that beat him. You know, I just think that, you know, for him it's very, very personal. And I think, honestly, I think for Oscar it's personal too. I think Oscar, more than anything else, wants this fighter to win this fight, possibly more than any other fighter he's had in the past wanting to win any other fight.
Yeah, and
Champ, I agree. I think it is actually more Oscar that is bothered, you know, by this whole thing than actually Canelo. Did you see the T-shirt that Oscar had?
Yeah.
It was a big piece. It was a big steak, and it said "Eat more meat," in reference to Canelo, you know, popping for clenbuterol a couple years ago, blaming tainted meat. So that was an extra little dig for De La Hoya.
Champ, you know what? That went right over my head. I thought he was being like anti-vegan.
Oh, dude, you're clever. I thought you would have got that one.
Yeah, you know what? Nah, man. I was.
But then
I was thinking pause and everything. I don't understand. Yeah, it's anti-vegan.
And Canelo was interviewed right after the weigh-in by Ariel Helwani, and you know, he asked them if you know, the issue with De La Hoya makes this fight personal. And Canelo said no. He said it doesn't affect the fight, doesn't affect my prepreparation. I don't care about that. You know, my issues with Oscar are with Oscar. It has nothing to do with Benavidez. With Munguia.
But I'll tell you what. I don't think he would give the satisfaction even if this had to do with Oscar. I think personally, you know,
good point.
He gave the right answer to Ariel Helwani in that interview. That's the way you would give that answer, because you don't want to give Oscar the satisfaction. But I don't know. Do we really think he's not thinking about the fact that this is Oscar's fighter? I mean, I don't know. Maybe the fans think differently. I'd love to hear different perspectives of what you think, Champ. But I think, man, this is one fight Canelo does not want to lose.
Yeah, no, I don't think he wants to lose any fight, but Canelo is always a consummate professional. So, to your point, the way that he acted at that press conference, that was definitely out of character for him. He certainly is angry. So, no, you're probably right.
I'll tell you what. What I mean to say is, yeah, he doesn't want to lose any fight. But what I mean, remember Bivol, he just kind of cruised. He said, forget it, I'll take the L. If they rob him, they rob him. Otherwise, I'll just take the L. If we're in the same situation, obviously big if, there's a lot of openings for Munguia to pay for that Canelo can make him pay for. I think if he's in the same situation against Munguia as he was with Bivol, because I feel like this is personal for him, I think he would go for it. Ooh. I think he would go for it. I don't think he would just accept just laying on the ropes and say, you know what, I'll take my chances on the scorecards. Right. I think he would want to go for it more.
And finish him.
I mean, it's obviously just my opinion based on just the animosity I sense between these two, but I think that's what I mean. But I think he's going to have a little bit more spice to him in this. Or spite, as the Brits like to say, spite to him in this fight.
And by the same token, do you think that means that Canelo's going to go for the knockout more in this fight than he has in recent past?
If he does, it's going to make it exciting because Munguia gives you the openings to look for the knockout. Yeah. But Munguia also is very offensive-minded himself, so I think it could make the fight more exciting in both ways.
Yeah, it certainly is going to be very interesting to see what happens. All right, time for a quick break here on Deep Waters. On the other side, we'll talk to someone who has faced both Canelo and Munguia in the ring. That is coming up next here on Deep Waters. Welcome back to Deep Waters. Last chance for both Lipinets and Davies Jr. to make some noise at 140. That's the main event Wednesday, May 8th here on ProBox TV. Wednesday night fights, the best live fight series in boxing. All right, let's get back to this matchup between Canelo Alvarez and Jaime Munguia. We are now joined by one of the most accomplished boxers and a man who has been in the ring with both of them. In fact, his last two fights were against Canelo in May of 2023 and Jaime Munguia earlier this year in January. We are joined by John Ryder. John, first of all, thank you very much for joining us here on Deep Waters. We appreciate your time. And let's start off with Canelo. What have you, when you were in the ring with Canelo, what did you notice? Do you think he's fading? Do you think he is slipping a little bit considering what happened between you two?
Firstly, thanks for having me on. Listen, Canelo is still a formidable force in the 168 division. He's probably not the Canelo that he was pre-COVID and post-COVID when he took over the super middleweight division, becoming undisputed, but he's still very capable, still very willing, and still very able. And listen, what sets him apart is his ring IQ. He's got a tremendous ring IQ. He knows every inch of that ring. And he's still got enough power, enough accuracy, enough tenacity to pull this off.
So, John, what is it about Canelo? You went the distance with Canelo in Mexico, which is a big-time accomplishment there. Is there an opening that Munguia can exploit? What did you see from your insight in the ring that maybe Munguia can exploit to beat Canelo? Was there a weakness there?
No, very little. He's very smart with his movement. He doesn't waste nothing. If he tees you up for a shot, be sure he's going to land it. He doesn't waste much. You might catch him with the odd shot, but he takes the sting out of most shots, and he's so evasive. He's very, very hard to hit clean.
John, you having fought both of them rather recently, what could you say is the biggest difference between the two that would give an advantage to one or the other, or maybe speak of an advantage each guy might have over the other?
Canelo's very accurate, very precise with his shots, and they're very thudding shots, whereas Jaime Munguia is very, very fast, more punches in bunches, but he's got a bit more snap to his shots, so a bit more sting. I say that the version of me that fought Canelo wasn't the version that fought Jaime Munguia 9 months down the line, but I still thought I was there, for I was at the races. But listen, Father Time catches up, and it proved otherwise. But listen, they're both very willing and very able. It's going to be a hell of a fight, but it's all down to who wants it most.
Was there anything with Canelo's weight, 166.8, that makes you feel a little concerned, or did that catch your eye in any way with the weighing of Canelo, with the weight of Canelo?
No, let's be fair. He'll be up to 185 by this evening. I'm sure he'll be nice and hydrated. Jaime Munguia might be even bigger. Um, and listen, just I know it's very high in Vegas at the moment. He might have just misgauged it and lost a bit too much, but I don't read too much into it.
Sean, you brought up some really interesting points about the difference in their power. The snappiness of Jaime and the thuddiness of Canelo. You fought some really big punchers in your career. How do you rate Canelo's power at 168?
Good. I mean, I think that the thing that is his time and his precision. He
Hmm.
puts you under a lot of pressure with his feet. Like I say, he knows every square inch of that ring, and he knows how to, when he's got you hurt, to keep you hurt.
Yeah.
He's very calculated in what he does. He doesn't waste anything, and he doesn't rush anything. And I think that's probably his superpower.
Yeah, and maybe just speak a little bit to his counter punching, because from what I see from him, he's a very tenacious counter puncher, and a lot of times that causes guys to shell up and not open up as much and not throw as many punches. So maybe you just talk a little bit about that in terms of this. You mentioned the speed and precision, but also those counter shots.
Well, I think that'll be the interesting thing. Obviously, Hyman Gears are very much a volume puncher,
Hmm.
but when Canelo gets started with those counters, he's very hard. He's very accurate with them, and you know he's not going to miss. He's gonna be so blatant and obvious what he's going to do, but to get yourself out of the way of these shots is almost impossible. Like I say, he's so calculated with it. He's so accurate, and the timing and the spot on them punches is full on.
Couple of questions here, John. First and foremost, you fought Canelo in Mexico. You fought Munguia in Anaheim. Any major differences there? Obviously, the crowds were both pro your opponent. You were the road guy either way, but any major differences you noticed in terms of the atmosphere? I'll tell you one thing I noticed. You had a very small ring fighting Canelo. I know you're not going to get the politics on your side. So as far as you talking about Canelo puts you in position to hit you, it also is easier when a guy gives you a small ring. Could you attest to any major differences between fighting Munguia in Anaheim and fighting Canelo in Mexico, aside from obviously their different technical prowesses?
I'll be honest, I was so dialed in come fight night on the job in hand that the crowd had very little effect. Obviously, 34 odd thousand more in Guadalajara in the stadium. But no, it didn't have no effect on me in there. I didn't realize how big the crowd was till I watched it back weeks later. Um, and got sent videos of the entrances and whatnot. But when I was in that ring, I was just fully focused on one man.
Let's talk a little bit about Jaime Munguia, who's the challenger for all of Canelo's belts there. How strong is he? How powerful is he over the course of a fight?
He's big. He's physical. He's strong. I'd say he's probably a naturally stronger man. With my nose going so early against Canelo, I couldn't stand there and almost wrestle with him, drag him about a bit, and try and put him into my game up close. And it was tough for me. I couldn't sustain those attacks, so I had to resort to boxing a bit more at distance, and didn't favour me. But with Jaime Munguia, he was very strong up close, very physical, and just then punched in bunches, and the volume and the snap in the shot was just hard to deal with.
John, you mentioned the stoppage with Munguia. It's Father Time. It wasn't the same version of you that fought Canelo. I mean, we're all here, we're all retired, so we can speak as retired fighters. How much did having made the Canelo money now make you a little bit less hungry to want to go through a tough fight, go through with that tough fight against Munguia? Because I can test it. Certainly, I felt the same way in tougher fights later in my career than I did earlier in my career. I said the other day when we were talking about your fight, I said I figured if you would have fought Munguia first, you would have won the distance with Munguia, but you fought Munguia after Canelo, not so much because of the damage Canelo did, but more so because you also had that comfort from having made the Canelo money. How much of that was Father Time, and how much of that was psychologically you kind of being more settled in?
I like to think that I fight like I've got nothing. Do you know what I mean? I train like I'd been given nothing. It's obviously hard to say with coming to sport, and obviously fighting Canelo is a handsome payday. Munguia not so much, but listen, the improvement Munguia's made in the last 6 months under Freddie Roach has been massive. Listen, Canelo like I say, them shots, they're thudding, they stick with you. It was a grueling 12 rounds. And listen, mentally, I thought I'd be better for it. And I wish I'd have had that fight 10 years ago, which I said. But physically, you don't realise the toll it takes on your body until later down the line. But yeah, I mean, I was willing to go to the well against Munguia, but listen, I think the father time was in the legs. They just wasn't there to keep me going.
John, you were always a very underrated fighter. I remember you working your fights when I was working back at Sky, when you were a lesser-known fighter, when you weren't even known on these shores, and you were only known in England. And I can remember you were early in your career. You were always sort of like an enigma. You could see so much talent there, but sometimes it would come out, and sometimes it wouldn't. So I was happy to see you kind of bursting onto the world scene, because I always felt you had that world-class potential. And having seen you earlier in your career, it just you weren't able to be consistent earlier in your career as you were once you reached that world-class level. And that I think is what made you a world-class fighter, is your ability to finally reach that consistency at that point in your career.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. It's nice of you to say that and to recognise it. I think that's just boxing all over, isn't it? We have the rough and the smooth. I was on the wrong end of a couple of decisions, but listen, a lot of it was down to me in other fights, just not being professional enough to speak up and to make the right decisions at the time. But listen, we learned so much in this game, and for the next chapter, going into training and whatnot, I'll be more complete for it.
Absolutely.
All right, John. We've learned so much from you about Canelo and Munguia. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you here on Deep Waters.
Thank you, guys.
All right, time for a quick break, and we will return with more here on ProBox TV. Welcome back to Deep Waters. If you're looking to make some money off of this Munguia-Canelo fight, check out Jim Rodriguez with some great tips on the better side.
Well, it may be boxing's biggest holiday in the United States. It's Cinco de Mayo weekend, and on the better side, we have got it all for you. It's Canelo versus Munguia for the undisputed super middleweight championships at 168 pounds. And if you go to SportsBetting.Ag, Canelo, the champ, he's the favorite at -550. Munguia, the underdog, at +375. Listen, if Munguia was maybe +500, +550, I would totally jump on that. No interest at +375. So, of course, we've got to find the better side, and here it is for you. Listen, at 27 years old, Jaime Munguia has got a lot of fights, right? 43-0 between Munguia and Canelo. We've got over 100 professional fights getting into the ring on Saturday night. Despite it all, Munguia's still the young lion on this. He throws punches and bunches, but he's facing probably the best counter puncher in the business. Not a lot of defense for Munguia. That means he could get caught. So what's the bet? SportsBetting.Ag. How about Jaime Munguia gets knocked down during the fight? That's a plus money, +130. I love that bet. Now, let's get back to Canelo at 33 years old, maybe slipping a bit, right? He hasn't stopped anybody since he beat Caleb Plant in the 11th round, November of 2021. Everything has been decision victories for Canelo, 4 straight. So what are we going to do? How about we go contrarian? We go that the fight will not go the distance. That's plus money as well at SportsBetting.Ag, +145. Listen, I think Canelo is going to sit and wait and take Munguia into those deep waters and get him late in the fight. So that brings us to our last bet here on the better side. How about Canelo stops Munguia in those championship rounds, right? Rounds 10 through 12. So Canelo by KO, TKO, or disqualification. Rounds 10 through 12, +650. That's pizza and beer money bets for me. I love that, and so should you. We're going to have a great time on Cinco de Mayo. Hope you do too. And of course, you can join us on ProBox TV on our YouTube channel for the great recap after the fight. I'm Jim Rodriguez, and of course, this is the better side.
Thanks, Jim. I think I might take that Canelo knockout disqualification in 10-12 rounds. That sounds like a good bet. All right, let's talk about this fight. And Chris, I'm going to start with you here. What is the key to victory for the champ, Canelo Alvarez?
For Canelo, I mean, he's got to be Canelo. He's got to use those sharp counter punching. And he's got to use that big power, that game-changing power that he has. There's a lot of holes in the defense of Jaime Munguia. You know, listen, anytime someone throws combinations, there's openings. Every time you throw a punch, it leaves an opening somewhere. And Munguia throws a lot of punches. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Canelo to use those sharp counters, that good timing to deliver, that game-changing power that he has. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for him to land those shots. That's what he needs to do. He needs to slow the pace down as much as he can so he can really set Jaime up and set traps and look to get those counter shots off. If he can slow the pace and keep Munguia to punching, less than 50 punches around, I think it's going to be an easy win for Canelo. Or if he catches him and hurts him, Canelo's a great finisher. So we just interviewed John Ryder, and he gave us some really good insight on what it's like to be in the ring with Canelo. So yeah, I think delivering those counter shots, looking for the holes, getting the pace to slow from the younger and more vibrant Munguia. And when you got your man hurt, man, get him out of there, because that's you don't want to end up with dealing with Munguia, who's a big super middleweight late in a fight if you got him hurt and let him survive. So that's the keys to victory for Canelo.
All right, Paulie, what are the keys to victory for Canelo in your mind?
I mean, for Canelo?
Yeah.
What else is there to say? The champ covered it all.
Got it all. Okay.
I was expecting you to ask me Munguia.
Okay, well then let's go ahead and do Munguia.
Canelo, there's only so many keys that exist, and the champ just covered them pretty much.
Okay, so then
I think
Munguia,
the main facet would be that the pace has to be slow. But of course, the opposite for Munguia, if the pace has to be slow for Canelo, it has to be fast for Munguia, who is naturally a fast-paced type of fighter. He just has to shorten up those combinations. He's a guy who throws punches in bunches. He throws up those combinations. I'd say, like we cover in the keys to victory, shorten those shots a little bit. Also find the new punching angles. Don't always step straight back. Munguia a lot of times is an in and out kind of fighter. So he'll jump in, he'll jump out, he'll jump in and jump out. Canelo has timing, adaptability to be able to maybe catch him on the out. So don't always jump back in and out. Maybe throw that combination, sidestep a little bit, create that new punching angle and whatnot. And I think you do those kind of things, you'll have a pace for Canelo that will be uncomfortable.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. All right, another big fight coming up this week for some undisputed belts. We will talk about that on Deep Waters after the break. Welcome back to Deep Waters. Undisputed super bantamweight title fight between Naoya Inoue and Luis Nery. Paulie, what do you like about this fight? Who do you see winning it?
What I like about this fight is Naoya Inoue in general. He's exciting anytime he fights. He's exciting for boxing. He's exciting for boxing fans. He's exciting for casuals. Yeah. He's exciting for everybody. Luis Nery is a guy who will come to you. He's not really that difficult to find. He likes to bang. He's a little bit too wide with his shots, though. Inoue, the thing that makes him so good is not only is he explosive and powerful, he keeps those shots tight. He keeps those shots short. Really hard to see anything except an Inoue knockout. There are keys to victory for Nery, but saying them and executing them against the monster like Inoue is a very drastic difference.
Yeah. Chris, what do you make of this Inoue-Nery fight?
I mean, champ, you put it perfectly. I'm excited because it's Inoue, but I don't really see Nery being able to pull this fight off. I can't get the thought out of my mind of him getting knocked out to the body by Brandon Figueroa years back. And Inoue is one of the best, most consistent body punchers in the game today, and he does a great job of setting up his punches. So all the points that you said about Nery in terms of the gaps in his offense and the wide punches, it should leave so many opportunities for the monster to land that big power that he has. And he's another one, game-changing power. It only takes one punch with him. And look for those body shots, man. Obviously, the guy has a propensity to go down for them and stay down. So Inoue is going to be targeting that breadbasket all night long, for as long as it lasts.
Inoue, with this victory, probably will solidify his place as the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. Don't forget, after the Canelo Munguia fight, we will be live on YouTube with Big Fight Breakdown. We want to hear your comments, get your super chats as well. That does it for Deep Waters. Take care, everyone.